cheaper public transport, I'm not sure it's enough that they will vote for them too. So the polls still have the LNP in front. It may not be the smashing that some people are predicting, but barring a last-minute disaster, the LNP should cruise to victory on Saturday night.
Yeah, it's looking like a certainty that the next Premier of Queensland will be David Crisafulli. Cam Redden, thank you so much for that excellent analysis. And after the break, the US election campaign takes another turn. The jabs at Donald Trump coming thick and fast now. Former US Acting Attorney General will join me to discuss Kamala's last-ditch effort to win over voters. Stay tuned.
The survivor and the successor.
There has never been an election campaign wilder than this one.
Now get ready for the main event.
The most important vote
for America's future.
Our unrivaled team will be live across the United States with all the results as they come in. Sky News is your all-access pass to this defining moment in history. America decides. Election night, all day Wednesday, November 6.
At Harvey Norman, get 50 months interest-free. No deposit, no interest with 50 monthly repayments from Latitude Financial Services. Shop our huge range. Everything for your home and lifestyle. Get 50 months interest-free. No deposit, no interest with 50 monthly repayments at Harvey Norman. Terms, fees, charges and exclusions apply.
Oi! You can't park here! I don't see a name on it.
Don't blast it out.
Boom! He'll be on the floor.
Nah, he's too explosive.
Bet it out. With Neds. Chances are you're about to lose.
Why are GMP Law Australia's leading compensation lawyers? Losing isn't an option. You need to win, not a token win. You need 100% compensation in the minimum time possible. That's what we do, and we're damn good at it. 25,000 victories, 98% success rate, over $4 billion in settlements. Maximum payouts on a no-win, no-fee basis. Call GMP Law today. 100% expert, 100% compensation.
Frustrated with your whites turning grey over time? Try new Vanish Gold Pro. At 20 degrees, it removes tough stains better than detergent alone. Plus, it keeps your whites crystal white even after 50 washes. Trust Vanish, forget stains.
Maria and Julio thought their life would never slow down. Then, one day, it finally did. You were made to find inner peace. We were made to track flight prices to paradise.
For some, it's a humble sandwich. Here, the bread is your oyster. Behold your edible masterpiece. Abbott's Bakery, made for makers.
Best things in life are free, 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 free. Best things in life are free.
Lions don't do complicated bank apps. They chill. Be the lion, Jay.
Harvey Norman's super deals on laptops. Save $120 on this Asus VivoBook Go 15, now $378. Save over $300 on this Lenovo Yoga with OLED screen. Save $500 on this powerful HP Envy X360. At Harvey Norman now.
Queensland decides tomorrow on Sky. Kieran Gilbert leads an expert panel with Peter Credlin and Andrew Clennell. Former foes Anastasia Palaszczuk and Campbell Newman, Graham Richardson, James McGrath and Patrick Gorman, plus Paul Murray and Laura Jays from the party headquarters, and Tom Connell with the results fast and live. All the reactions and big debates. The Queensland election, tomorrow on Sky News.
Welcome back, and let's bring in now Donald Trump's former acting US Attorney General, Matthew Whitaker. Matthew, welcome back to the show. Look, you're travelling around with Team Trump. You were in Pennsylvania today, I understand. What's the plan for the final countdown for the Trump campaign?
Well, good. It's good to be with you again. And, what I can tell you is we are not taking anything for granted, and we're going to sprint through the finish here. We are on a bus tour across Pennsylvania, great crowds, and really a lot of enthusiasm. One of the things we're trying to make sure folks do is vote early, and then so we can focus on those that don't vote in every election. Unlike Australia, where everybody is mandated to vote, we have people that almost half of our fellow citizens that don't show up and vote every year reliably for president. And so we're making sure that we're the reliable voters, we're banking those votes, and then we're focused on those, sometimes vote, sometimes not voters.
Look, the 7 battleground states are really crucial for the outcome of this election. Clearly, you and the former president are spending a lot of time there in the final 14 days. What's the reaction been like on the ground in Pennsylvania? The polls have Donald Trump just ahead, around 1.1% in the 7 battleground states on average. Do you think this is going to be enough to get him over the line?
Well, it just depends. We've had inaccurate polling in the last 2 presidential elections in 2016 and 2020. And so what you're seeing is a cautiousness, because we don't know whether these polls are accurate this year or whether they're off again. Typically Trump voters are harder to find for pollsters than Democrat voters. But, I've been to all of the swing states. Most recently, I've been in Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. And, what I'm seeing is a real desire from those that support Donald Trump and those that are interested in Donald Trump in making sure that he is the one in the White House in January. Because, the issues, whether it's the border, the southern border, whether it's national security, whether it is energy policy, whether it is law and order issue that I care a lot about, or whether it's the economy, all of those issues are Donald Trump is very strong, and I think a lot of voters think he is the one that can fix these problems that really, quite frankly, have been caused by Kamala Harris and Joe Biden.
Well, Kamala Harris did another town hall with CNN with Anderson Cooper today. She was asked yet again why she's changed positions on some issues. Have a look.
Can you talk a little bit about how your positions have shifted and why?
Sure, and thank you. So first of all, on fracking, I've been very clear. We kind of dispensed with this in 2020. I am not going to ban fracking. I did not as vice president. In fact, as vice president, I cast the tie-breaking vote that now has opened up more fracking leases. My value on the issue of what we need to do to invest in a clean energy economy and a clean energy future has not changed. But frankly, I now have the experience and perspective of having been vice president.
Matt, what did you think of her answers on why she's changed positions on major policy areas?
Yeah, well, I've never seen a major party candidate debate themselves alone. It's really quite extraordinary. She can't be trusted on so many issues, that the American people care about. Here in Pennsylvania, a major state that has a lot of jobs that depend on fracking, the folks I'm talking to that are on the ground do not believe that she can be trusted on this. I mean, she was a strong proponent when she ran in 2019 for ending fracking. Her campaign and even herself have been all over the board. Kamala Harris is unfortunately one of those politicians that will say anything to anybody in order to try to win an election, but she just can't be trusted on this issue and so many others.
We've played the comments already on the show tonight where she accused Donald Trump of being a fascist. She repeated those accusations today. What do you think this says about her mindset a couple of weeks out?
It just shows, that she's willing to take cheap political hits at Donald Trump. I mean, no one believes that Donald Trump is a fascist, because I tell you what, he was a president of the United States for 4 years and really took no action that would suggest that he wants to lead us to something like Mussolini's Italy. So, I think that is just a cheap political slur that Kamala Harris is trying to throw against President Trump in order to steal this election, but she's just not going to make it happen.
All right, Matt Whitaker, thank you very much for your time and joining us from the campaign trail. Now, that's it from me. On Monday, I'm going to be joined by a family member of a hostage in Gaza who did the interview with SBS, but they refused to run it. This is going to steamroll into a major story, censorship from a public broadcaster. So tune in Monday at 8. Up now, Paul Murray.
This is Paul Murray Live.
G'day, where the Man Cave is in Brisbane tonight, 2 days away from the Queensland election. We've got a lot on that front tonight, as well as a debate about the other issues that are around today. Remember, you can always send me an email, paul@skynews.com.au. Let's get straight into it. Yes, I'm going to talk about Lydia Thorpe, but slightly different than everyone else, and then I'll get on to other stuff, okay? Now, we know Lydia Thorpe yelled at the King this week. We know that Lydia Thorpe got what she wanted because, of course, she got all of the attention that came with that. She's also out there and about today saying, I'm not going anywhere, I'm not going anywhere. And you have heard about the inconsistencies between what she's using as her excuses today that are different than yesterday, and it all goes back to how she was sworn in as a senator. Now, you remember at the time that we noted that she clearly was being sworn in with two fingers behind her back because she had to read the oath, and the oath says that, of course, you are committed to their majesties and their heirs and successors. Now, I wanted to show you in full that Lydia Thorpe didn't just take one go at this. She tried to get away with not giving the oath, but the President of the Senate at the time went, no, you've got to do it properly or you're not formally sworn in as a senator. Again, you've heard a lot of people talk about this. I want to show you the full clip of how she tried to get around the oath that decides whether she is or isn't a senator. This is the whole idea that will be battled over in the next few weeks.
Senator Thorpe, I'm going to wait for quiet.
Pay attention, just listen.
Senator Thorpe, you are required to recite the oath as printed on the card, so please recite the oath.
So, no other words. Read what's there.
None of us
Right, see?
Senator Thorpe,
can I get away?
Senator
what do
Thorpe,
I do? No, turn around. Read the damn piece of paper.
I bear true allegiance to the colonising Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and successors according to law.
Okay, important, right? Important. Now, obviously, it's very clear she didn't want to read the words as written. It's very obvious that she clearly tries to mispronounce or not read correctly the words heirs and successors. Now, heirs doesn't have an H in it, but clearly you heard her doing that. Now, if she's not properly sworn in the same way that if you are a dual citizen, you can't remain a senator. Now, there is going to be like a Zapruder film, JFK assassination style analysis of exactly what words she said. Now, remember, when she was on TV earlier this week, she was open that she didn't read the words as instructed multiple times. Instead, she did it her way.
I read the card. It said heirs, which, is now heirs. I'm no expert on the English language. That's part of the process of colonisation.
So she thought, I found a clever way around this. And then somebody's clearly whispered in her ear, if you don't take the oath properly, whether you mean it or not, okay, nobody can know what's going on inside someone. But if you don't read it properly, word for word, letter for letter, then maybe you're not qualified to be a senator. Now remember, this is a person who came in under the cover of the Greens and then walked away from them very quickly into the Parliament, knowing that she would have a full 6-year term, meaning even after the next election, we've got to put up with her for another 3 years. Well, clearly worried that her first defence, which was, I didn't really mean it, might see her booted out of the Senate. We got this version today.
my English grammar isn't as good as others, and I spoke what I read, so I misspoke.
Okay, all again too clever, right? You don't have to have an awareness of grammar. You don't have to be someone who speaks the Queen's English. You need to be able to read and repeat every single word of the oath. Now, unless her third defence is going to be that she's dyslexic, but her saying, oh, my understanding of no. Take this from a high-functioning dyslexic. If you've got problems reading the words because for whatever reason your brain can sometimes jumble them, that is its own thing. What you did, because we saw in the original video, she tried not to deliver that part of the oath. She then turns around the second time she's been ordered by the President of the Senate to read it directly, and she clearly didn't read it directly, and she certainly didn't enunciate the words properly. Will this mean she can get booted out of the Senate? Now, you would think that Labor, Greens and the crossbench will probably come to defend her because they always do when it comes to lefties. But is there a procedure that it won't matter what her side of politics thinks? I can't wait to talk to Bronwyn Bishop, of course, a former senator, Stephen Conroy, a former leader of the Senate, about what the procedure is here, what happens next. They know the institution. Do they think that she can get booted, or we're going to put up with her for another however many years? We get to that a little later in the show. As I mentioned, 2 days to go here in Queensland until that state election. Lots of people have already voted. The expectation is, after early voting wraps up tomorrow, that a good chunk, maybe even half, of all people may well have voted early. Now, last night, of course, Queensland was very focused on what we had to say, and thank you to the huge reaction that we've had to my comments at the start of the show about why Queensland matters as much to me as it does. I don't say that as a pander to Queenslanders. I say it, as I explained last night, about why I love the place, because it's the place that I, when I'm not at home, most choose to be in Australia. It is a place that deserves better than its current government. But we'll all find out in the next couple of days whether or not there is about to be a change of government. And if I sound slightly wobblier compared to guaranteed, absolute, the sun will rise tomorrow and the government will change on Saturday, well, I'll get to why you should always be sceptical of what could be a 50-50 result. For his part, the potential future Premier and current opposition leader, David Crucifulli, out and about today, trying to keep the focus hard and fast on law and order issues. In this state, the Palaszczuk government, at the same time as they were claiming to tighten up a whole collection of laws, as you know, changed a whole bunch of other laws that mean possession of drugs is not automatically a crime. As I said at the time, this was overtly done because when about a certain percentage of the whole youth crime was possession of drugs, if you suddenly say it's not a crime anymore, magically the numbers start to fall. And funnily enough, Stephen Miles is using that exact argument about youth crime and crime overall that is falling. In part, that is because of what was a crime, drug possession, in this state currently is considered not to be. There's a whole collection of diversionary programs. David Crucifulli says, no, we go back to the way that it used to be, which is if you're caught with drugs, regardless of how much, there will be a problem for you in Queensland.
We don't believe a soft on drugs approach works, but I don't believe rolling out the welcome mat to drugs and saying that drugs are acceptable here and not here. I just don't believe that's the right way.
For his part, the potential and hopefully outgoing Premier, Stephen Miles, is doing what he's done all campaign, which is a stunt that the media will like. A headline that produces things like the Premier to visit 36 states in 36 hours and, geez, isn't he working really hard and he wants it more than everybody else. Of course, it's a last-ditched effort to make the most out of his taxpayer-funded travel, which, remember, this bloke, during this election campaign, used a taxpayer-funded jet to fly 10 minutes so he could go to a birthday party for one of his own MPs. This is the same bloke who took his own private jet to North Queensland while the police commissioner took his private jet. You couldn't possibly get on the same two private jets. These people, other people's money, they've had their snout in the trough for too long. I desperately hope there's going to be a change. there was some other silliness that took place today, including a deputy leaders debate where the deputy leader of the LNP didn't turn up. So Cameron Dick, of course, had the opportunity to pretend that he could debate a person who wasn't there. This is part of it that played out here at the Courier Mail today.
We're going through one of the biggest growth periods in our state's history. Now, we always pay our debts in Queensland. You know, we issue our bonds 3, 5, 10, 30 years. We always pay them. And Queensland never retires. So we will always be able to service our debts.
Well, the Deputy LNP leader wasn't there, but will be here on this program tonight. I'll ask him some of the questions that clearly weren't able to be asked then and why he didn't turn up at that debate. We'll get to that a little bit later tonight. Now, we know that the great battle at the federal level, of course, is between an unpopular Prime Minister and the rising popularity of our guest last night, Peter Dutton. We also know that they have two very different views when it comes to the energy solution for our country in the many years going forward. We know the Prime Minister is obsessed with doubling down on billions and billions of dollars on renewable projects. Peter Dutton says that you could spend less than is planned on the renewables and, of course, back in on nuclear power. Now, of course, the automatic scare that the Labor Party has brought into play, and they wanted to play during the Queensland election, but of course they started that abortion lie, which again I debunked and destroyed and gave you the reasons why they were doing it last night. That video is now up at skynews.com.au. If you're in Queensland, please share it. Well, of course, the scaremonger that they wanted to do, if it wasn't abortion, it was going to be, will a nuclear reactor be in your backyard?
Nuclear power is the most expensive form of new energy. Renewables are the cheapest.
A nuclear-powered Australia, could it work? Question mark.
He has a plan for nuclear reactors where he won't tell you how much it'll cost.
Nuclear takes longer, it costs more, and it would waste Australia's unique combination of geological, geographical, geopolitical and meteorological advantages.
Now, I've always argued that the model for big changes in Australia is the way John Howard argued the GST in the 1998 election. And it simply was, yes, there will be a new GST. However, all of these other taxes will be removed. Australians having a sense that they get something for the change. So my argument has always been that whatever local government area or federal electorate, you work out how it works, that is willing to host a nuclear power plant, that area should receive free energy. You will see many a hand go up. You will see unanimous votes for councils. You will see people fighting for these things to be built in their area. I've argued that position for many months, and I hope that that's something that the opposition leader and the opposition generally take to the next federal election, because I think it truly does blunt many or most of the fear campaigns, and we know that this government's got very little to run on in terms of its own defence, so they're going to be trying to scare. Well, a prominent Australian business person may well be a viewer of this program, or just two people can have the same idea at the same time. Ryan Stokes was addressing the media today in Perth, where he is, of course, involved in the ownership structure of the West Australian newspaper, Channel 7, and mining companies in Western Australia. Well, he says, guess what? A good way to make sure that nuclear power gets over the NIMBYs is to offer it for free to some people, including the people who, of course, would be in and around where one of these things will be built. Nuclear is a carbon-free power source, so it makes sense to be talking about that to reduce carbon emissions. Common sense. Mr Stokes thinks there's a solution to deal with the rest of the population who remain nuclear NIMBYs, which is not in my backyard. And to deal with this NIMBYism, it's easy. You find ways to incentivise people to live around nuclear power. Put simply, you make it free for the people who live within a certain distance. As I say, local council area, federal electorate. You watch country towns in this country shove their hands in the air and say, yes, sign us up, we're ready, let's do it. If the trade-off is free power, I think that would be a very good idea. Meantime, when he talks about the renewable revolution that we are forced to endure, something that along with the building of the turbines and the solar panels that, of course, all are out of date within a couple of decades, And the wiring of all of this, making the wires a two-way street when it comes to power, that'll cost about $1 trillion. Well, he says that no one can possibly believe that renewable energy is free. There's no such thing as free or a free lunch. There's no such thing as free energy. There's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I agree. And as we spoke about with Peter Dutton on the program last night, even the people who are in charge of the energy grid are telling us that even after all of the windmills have been built, all of the solar panels have been rolled out, power may not actually be cheaper than what we are paying now.
Chris Bowen, I think, has been misleading the Australian people, along with Anthony Albanese, for years now. The penny has dropped for a lot of Australians. A lot of people have been well ahead of this debate, and the frustration is building in the community because when the Prime Minister promised on 97 occasions he'd reduce power bills by $275, for most people they've gone up by $1,000.
Now, what do these three things have in common? A spokesperson for the new Muslim Votes political movement, the CCP in China, and lefty Laura Tingle from the ABC. Well, all three of them think that Australia is racist, a racist country. Now, we know that lefty Laura Tingle has said this, and she did it at a writers' festival where a whole bunch of people were clutching their pearls in agreement.
We are a racist country, let's face it, we always have been, and it's very depressing, but to give a licence like that I find profoundly depressing and a terrible prospect for the next election.
And of course, we can never forget her incredible, 4D chess and X-ray vision that she was able to look around the corner at a dystopian future for Australia, that because we're so racist and because the racist flames are being fanned because of the problems of immigration, which, as we know, is not about where people are from, what they look like, what they believe, but how many people join the queue for things like ambulances, where, again, in places like Queensland, there's a chance if you call AAA, the ambulance may not turn up. Or if you sit in the back of the ambulance, you may well end up being there for hours because there's no bed for you in a hospital. No, let's add another 1 million people on top of all of that. Well, she believed the dystopian future was that as soon as now, people who are new to the country, whatever that means, who look like people who are new to the country, whatever that means, will of course be set upon by a racist mob of people who won't like when they're bidding for a house or trying to get a rental property.
For a major political leader to be saying, as Nikki says, everything that's going wrong in this country is because of migrants. And, I had this sudden flash of people turning up to try to rent a property or at an auction, and if they look a bit different, whatever you define different as, that basically he has given them licence to be abused.
I'm pretty sure that's racist what she said. But because she said it, here's 100 Walkleys and an OAM is coming your way. Of course, none of that is happening and none of that will be happening in the country. But that's the first person who says Australia's racist. The second, the spokesperson for this Muslim Votes movement. Now, I don't talk much about the Muslim Votes movement because ultimately, even if they're able to successfully move 10, 20% of Labor voters, for them to be able to get the Teal effect, they need the preferences of the Liberal Party. That's not going to happen. So I don't talk about it much. But one of the spokespeople for it, well, guess what they say? Australia's racist.
Those two sentences triggered the poor sensibilities of the white exceptionalist establishment. She's absolutely 100% right. This country is racist. Its whole origin as a modern state is built on racism, and it continues to be racist today. But that racism now extends to others with a vigour. Right? The response to any issue dealing with Islam, with Muslims, and now Palestine, it's not even hidden racism any longer. It's overt, it's loud.
And then China. Well, China had the hide to come out today, and because Australia is trying to point out the human rights issues that are taking place in China, the handsome boy and the president, well, of course, they'll cuddle up at any opportunity they possibly can. Otherwise, there's a trade war, and we know how all of that goes, and we must reset the relationship. But an official with the Foreign Affairs Department has turned around and said this about Australia. China has accused Australia of systemic racism and hate crimes and hypocrisy, after an Australian diplomat raised international concerns about human rights abuses in the area where the Uyghurs are and Tibet at the UN. The Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman, Li Weian, I think it is, says, quote, out of their ideological bias, Australia, the US and a handful of other Western countries stoked confrontation and multilateral platforms for their selfish political interests. Well, what do you do at the UN and what do you do when it comes to the World Health Organization? Because they were not all that good in being able to hold you accountable for the Wu flu getting around. Anyway, let's get to the why Australia's racist bit. Australia, long plagued by systemic racism and hate crimes, have severely violated the rights of refugees and immigrants and left Indigenous people with vulnerable living conditions. Oh, they go on. Australian soldiers have committed abhorrent crimes in Afghanistan and other countries during their military operations. Well, pal, let's push the ball right back into your half of the court. 1 million people are currently working in slave labour camps because they believe what the government does not allow them to believe. Uyghurs are being put into slave labour camps. They are being physically, psychologically and sexually abused. 1 million of these people. The abuse is absolutely disgraceful, happening right now. But what about back in history? You don't have to go back that far to when China had a one-child policy rule. It meant that, as the Washington Post reported in 1985, that people were killing their baby girls because the one child they wanted was a son. Official position, of course, of the Chinese government. How dare they try to high horse us? But look at the bedfellows, the extreme left of the media, an emerging identitarian form of politics based in and around religion, and China, all using the same weapon against us to pretend that this country is racist. Please. I find it extraordinary that the racism was displayed by Laura Tingle about people who look different being set upon, the apparent racism that exists in a country that you are trying to convince people via the ballot box to vote for you, and China trying to pretend that they have the moral high ground on any of these issues is a disgrace. Now, I want to talk about our mates in Broken Hill. They've had a tough week this week. Hopefully many of them are starting to watch us again via powered devices, but I know plenty of people have been listening to us via their phones or DAB radios, lots of different ways to get Sky News. I love Broken Hill. We were there not that long ago doing an Our Town, an absolutely spectacular part of Australia. If you get the chance to go and have a look at some of the mines, but also go and look at the stars. Beautiful part of Australia. Well, guess what? They've been without power. In fact, about 1,400 homes, which is a big chunk of the town, is probably not going to have electricity for weeks. You see, it all took place because there was a giant storm out in far western New South Wales. Broken Hill blackout pushes the town to the brink. Miners are being stood down and schools are being closed. There was a generator that was brought in to try to replace power, particularly for the local hospital. Well, that overheated. That's shut down. So I'm pleased to say we've got an update. Firstly, we see you about the problems you've been having in Broken Hill. Shout out to all of our mates that we've met and have been watching the show for years. But also the New South Wales government, well, they say they are helping. In fact, they are doing so as we speak.
I've come here today with the first round of a government support package, $200 for households in Broken Hill and surrounding communities, $400 for small businesses. I realise that's not going to make everybody whole, and there's been significant disruption and interruption in power, but it's the first step in us working with the local community to get businesses up on their feet and get the community going again.
Yeah, good on him, good on the local mayor, all the rest of it for going out, having the face-to-face, bringing the media with them. That's good stuff. I really like Chris Minns. I think that he's the perfect example of what Labor should be. Of course, Albo has no interest in doing any of that. He knows better than everyone else. But more than happy to have supported that bloke becoming the Premier, and more than happy to say that this bloke is doing a very good job. If any of this is falling flat, please send me an email, paul@skynews.com.au, if you're in or around Broken Hill. Shout out to everyone watching us there. Now, to the United States. Less than a couple of weeks to go now. Now, remember Kamala Harris, when she was doing better than she currently is in the opinion polls, what was the word they were using over and over again to describe their political movement?
Let's not be afraid of having a little joy. To the point of, what makes you feel good about your work?
I find joy in the American people. I find joy in optimism. I find joy in the ambition of the people. I find joy in the dreams of the people. I find joy in building community. I find joy in building coalitions.
Oh, well, that was then and now is now, and she is losing in the polls, and every prediction is that she will lose the presidency. We'll all find out in the next couple of weeks if something magically is going to change, but the joy and vibes candidate is now this.
Should never again have the privilege of standing behind the seal of the President of the United States.
And now the man calls himself the father of IVF. I mean, what does that even mean? He has no idea what he's talking about.
The American people are exhausted with his gaslighting.
But it seems to me that the Trump campaign is now the joy and vibes campaign. You have a man who's, remember, the stakes for him are he will become leader of the free world, or if he loses, he'll go to jail, because the system is absolutely ready to put him in jail on some of those federal charges, let alone what's playing out in New York right now. Yet how is he behaving? He's dancing on stage. He's smiling and laughing when he's leaning out of a window when it comes to McDonald's. That's not a guy who looks like he's playing a losing hand. And the stakes for him, way higher than any of us talking about it. For his personal safety, it's presidency or jail. I think he's currently the joy candidate. And today, he addressed a mega rally in Georgia. This looks like a joy campaign to me. Kamala is even losing on joy right now, right? Trump has got her covered there, the supporters as well, because they look like they are headed in the direction of the White House. So in the past couple of days, there has been every attempt possible from all of their mates in the media, that being the Democrats, to try to find that one story that will disqualify Trump as the next president of the United States. There are two stories I want to tell you about. One dropped via The Guardian with a story of a woman who claims at a party where Jeffrey Epstein had some connection to Donald Trump, that Donald Trump had groped her. The story is from the early 1990s. The second is a much nastier piece, which was a whole bunch of unconfirmed sources, among other things, telling a terrible story. The terrible story is around this lady, a beautiful woman who was viciously murdered on an army base during Trump's presidency. The family ended up coming to the White House, spending time with the president. The president said that he would pay, if needed, for the funeral. The bill turned up, and the unnamed sources was that he apparently blew up at the size and then made some sort of racial reference because she was, quote unquote, Mexican. Now, everyone in the room who remembers the conversation says, no, that didn't happen. The family of the woman tweeted this in response to the article that the media have just ignored, that the family came out and said, wow, I don't appreciate how you're exploiting my sister's death for politics. It's harmful, disrespectful. Donald Trump showed nothing but respect to my family. In fact, I voted for President Trump today. So that story's rubbish. But you watch them trying to push it everywhere, and every time you hear it, I want you to remember the family themselves say it's garbage. The second one is this person who was sacked by Donald Trump and has hated it ever since, and who has spent every day since being sacked as his chief of staff, tipping a bucket on him. But suddenly, 2 weeks before the election, of all of the stories that have been told, he just happened to remember 2 weeks before an election a conversation about Hitler and the good things, quote unquote, that he did. I don't believe that happened, in the same way that I don't believe the other thing happened. And all of this is happening because of the pressure that is on Democrats. They can't run on their record and they can't run on their promise of the next 4 years. So instead, they're in the Trump derangement syndrome phase. But those people were already voting for Kamala Harris. But today, Kamala Harris spoke from the Naval Observatory, which is her equivalent of the White House. It's her residence in DC, and she was laying it on with two trowels.
It is deeply troubling and incredibly dangerous that Donald Trump would invoke Adolf Hitler, the man who is responsible for the deaths of 6 million Jews. All of this is further evidence for the American people of who Donald Trump really is.
Honestly, the whole 3 minutes is a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. But we'll see whether it works with people or not. I would suspect not. I think they've been crying wolf for 8 years. They've had it at 11 since the second he came down on the escalators. So I just think there's a level of noise in the same way in 2020. The American people wanted to turn down and off on Donald Trump. I think the American people want to turn down and off the lefties pretending the sky's going to fall in by re-electing the president who did a much better job than what the Democrats have done when it came to the economy or the border in the past 4 years. So as we go into the second last weekend, a weekend where Donald Trump will give an interview to Joe Rogan, I think that's going to produce some big news and potentially not great news because Joe Rogan isn't a huge fan of Donald Trump and may well ask some pretty direct questions nobody else will, but we'll all find out together. And he's got a giant rally at Madison Square Garden, the same site as WrestleMania and the Knicks playing. It'll be a home to a Donald Trump rally this weekend. Of course, that means the joy message versus the wild message will be what he's trying to push. As for tonight, when the betting market's currently 60-40, the chances of Donald Trump becoming president, their suggestion currently in the betting markets is that he wins every swing state. In a more left-wing leaning, Nate Silver, he turns around and says that Trump is now favourite to be the president, only just, but the assumption is he will win Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia and Nevada. If he does that, then, and Arizona. If he does that, he will maintain a path to the presidency. And if all the polls are locked in place and are true, Trump wins every swing state and gets 312 electoral votes. So Harris, again, getting desperate, trying to play as many home games as she possibly can between now and that inevitable election. She was on the ultimate home turf, which of course was CNN, but she even stuffed that up. Have a listen to this question and this appalling answer.
Is there something you can point to in your life, political life or in your life in the last 4 years, that you think is a mistake that you have learned from?
I mean, I've made many mistakes, and they range from, if you've ever parented a child, you make lots of mistakes too. In my role as vice president, I mean, I've probably worked very hard at making sure that I am well versed on issues, and I think that is very important. It's a mistake not to be well versed on an issue and feel compelled to answer a question.
We didn't edit it. That's her answer. Any mistakes? I try too hard. It's like a job interview. What do you think your weaknesses are? I'm just too committed to the job. Even Democrats trying to spin for her in the post-game show on CNN, they didn't buy it.
The things that would concern me is when she doesn't want to answer a question, her habit is to kind of go to word salad city. And she did that on a couple of answers. One was on Israel. Anderson asked a direct question, would you be stronger on Israel than Trump? And there was a 7-minute answer, but none of it related to the question he was asking. On immigration, I thought she missed an opportunity because she would acknowledge no concerns about any of the administration's policies. And that's a mistake. Sometimes you have to concede things.
Time is running out, especially for Kamala Harris. Quick break, back with more. Looking forward to Stephen Conroy and Bronwyn Bishop. They know the rules of the Senate. Is there a way to get rid of Lydia Thorpe politically? We will do so in a moment here on Paul Murray Live.
The survivor and the successor.
This election, fundamental freedoms are at stake.
There has never been an election campaign wilder than this one.
Now get ready for the main event on Sky News.
We will make America great again.
As the votes are counted and a president is elected, our unrivaled team will be live across the United States.
We'll be on the ground bringing you all the twists and turns as America chooses its fate.
All the results, all day, live as they come in.
And we'll be in the room with the candidates on election night.
Will Trump return to office or will Harris become the first female president?
The biggest coverage, fit for the most epic battle. Sky News is your all-access pass to this defining moment in history. America Decides, Election Night, all day Wednesday, November 6 on Sky News.
At Harvey Norman, get 50 months interest free. No deposit, no interest with 50 monthly repayments from Latitude Financial Services. Shop our huge range, everything for your home and lifestyle. Get 50 months interest free. No deposit, no interest with 50 monthly repayments at Harvey Norman. Terms, fees, charges and exclusions apply.
Since 1984, Cbus Super has been one of the top performers, returning an average of 8.87% per annum, which just goes to show, while a lot's changed in our industries, your hard work and ours has and always will be the foundation of it all. Cbus Super, making hard work pay off since 1984.
Frustrated with your whites turning grey over time? Try new Vanish Gold Pro. At 20 degrees, it removes tough stains better than detergent alone. Plus, it keeps your whites crystal white even after 50 washes. Trust Vanish, forget stains.
At Viking, we've thought of everything so you don't have to. Simply unpack once and we'll take care of the rest.
Viking's Fly Cruise sale is on now. For a limited time, enjoy free return flights to Europe. Book now at Viking.com or see your Viking travel agent.
At Spotlight Spring Savings Sale, 40% off Riley Curtains and Blinds. VIP save 50% off Saxby Curtains and Blinds. VIP save 30 to 40% off made-to-measure curtains, blinds and shutters. So hang in and shade it for less. Backed by our bargain guarantee. Sale on now. At Spotlight, it's what you make it.
Life takes you to a lot of places, and mental health challenges like depression and anxiety can follow you to all of them. That's why you need support that's affordable and always with you.
What if you could do therapy here, and this way, and that way, all within your schedule and budget?
That's what BetterHelp is for. No referrals, no waiting rooms, just therapy, designed to work for you.
Join the millions of people who turn to BetterHelp for mental health support.
It's therapy, a better way. BetterHelp.com.
Best things in life are free, 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 free. Best things in life are free.
This town ain't big enough for the both of us.
There ain't nothing but space.
Don't shoot it out.
Great draw, great jockey.
Nah, man, this one shoots out of the gate. Bet it out. With Neds. Chances are you're about to lose.
Welcome back to Brisbane, just a couple of days away from the Queensland election. A news poll has just dropped on the Australians website. There has been a change in who they think is going to win and by what margin since the campaign started. I'll get to the details in a moment or two's time, but first, always here to help is Stephen Conroy, carryover champ as always, Bronwyn Bishop. Bronwyn, I want to use your expertise as a senator. Stephen, yours as a former leader of the Senate. Is there a way to get rid of Lydia Thorpe? And if people got Zabruta film about it, if she didn't take the oath properly, can that disqualify her as a senator? Bronwyn.
Well, my answer would initially be probably not, but I'll put a caveat on that. I think people would have thought the same thing when all that flurry of people coming up against Section 44 and people who were said to have dual citizenship and were thrown out of the Senate. I don't think anybody anticipated that that's the way it would end up. So there is every possibility that this could end up in the High Court, and it could be deliberated upon as to whether or not she did conform with Section 42 of the Constitution. So I think this has got a long way to travel. I mean, her duplicity, not only in trying to avoid properly taking the oath in the first place, today talking about grammar, which has got nothing to do with it at all, I think just made people very, very angry. I know when I looked at her, I just thought, here's this exhibitionist woman put there by the Greens. Understand she's there because she was a Green on the Green ticket. She was deputy leader of the Greens, and they have to be responsible for putting her there and not let off the hook. But her own behaviour is something that she does on a regular basis. And it doesn't matter whether it's lying down in Mardi Gras in the street or whether it's having a fight with a bikie or whatever it is. It's all done for publicity for herself, which has got nothing to do with any cause. It's just exhibitionism. But it is possible to end up in the High Court, I think.
Yeah. Stephen, is it a fight worth having?
No. Like, seriously, Bronwyn's first instinct on this is right. Okay, she's an exhibitionist who just demands attention, and she's going to keep lifting the bar because it gets more boring each time, so she's got to be more outrageous. Bob Brown interjected on George W. Bush at a federal joint sitting, and I think he attempted to do it against Xi within a couple of days later, and there was all this outrage about he should be kicked out. It's like, just stop talking about her. She revels in the attention. On Bronwyn's Section 44, Bronwyn, it's never actually been tested. Jackie Kelly, not kicked out of Parliament on the basis of Section 44. And more importantly, Graham Campbell, member for Kalgoorlie, said, yeah, I'm a British citizen too. Someone wants to take me to court, go your hardest. No,
but Stephen,
so
44...
all those resignations took place.
44 was tested in court. Section 42 has not been tested in court. Sorry, you're just wrong.
So all resigned. Now, no one was expelled. No one was expelled.
No, I'm sorry, they were. They had to go. The deputy, I mean...
Yeah, can I talk about... Okay, guys, I need to jump in here because we're all in different spots, so forgive me. I've got to take the wheel here. Interesting opinion piece came out today from a lefty over in the Sydney Morning Herald, doing a bit of reporting but also a bit of opinion here, that basically Anthony Albanese's control over the Labor Party and its membership in the Parliament is so strong that MPs are not in a position to be able to pull him back when he's making the obvious mistakes that he's been making for some time. Stephen, I'll ask you it this way. Is this bloke right in his observation?
He's wrong in his analysis. Okay, whether Albo, as the Prime Minister of the day, has authority over the caucus and the parliamentary party, absolutely. His analysis is wrong. The reason that people don't change the leader now is not the 65 or 70% rule. It's actually because you've then got to have a ballot of the full membership of the party. An insane rule. I opposed it to Rudd's face. I've opposed it when people talked about it previously. I would urge our parliamentary colleagues to repeal it. It won't happen because there's a whole range of self-interested reasons why it won't happen. But it should be dumped. But that's the real reason. It's the party membership vote. You'd have no Prime Minister of the country for 3 months. A completely untenable position. That's the real problem. You can blast someone out, as been demonstrated repeatedly over time, by simply orchestrating a string of resignations, people, coming out every day. You build the pressure up. Nick Minchin did it brilliantly, orchestrated it against Malcolm Turnbull the first time, and it's happened against Labor leaders as well, as people resign. It becomes an untenable position. So the real problem is not the percent of the parliamentary party, it's the actual rules that follow from it. So Albo, as any Prime Minister should have, has a lot of authority. But the analysis was flawed because his reasoning and understanding of the parliamentary rules was flawed.
Bronwyn, in Queensland, of course, you know which way we're heading. Would you like to comment about what Stephen just said?
Can I just say the idea that anybody would be fearful of Albanese in that caucus is laughable. I mean, the man is quite plainly totally unable to carry out the job. You've got 3 people at least in there counting heads. And Stephen, I'm not going to argue about your rules, but my understanding was if they want to change the rules, all they need is 50% plus 1 in the caucus, and if they only have 1 candidate, they can do it. But
yep, no, I made sure that rule of 50% plus 1 in caucus stayed as a national rule. I'm very familiar with this process. But I repeat, no one's walking into caucus. No one will. I repeat, I offered to move it. I offered to walk into the caucus and actually repeal it, but there wasn't enough support to do it. And there still remains not enough support. I think it should be done. I think it's a bad rule. And I think, and that's got nothing to do with Albanese, Rudd, or anyone else. It's just a bad rule.
Oh. Well, there we go.
I want to talk about Queensland and this poll that's just dropped. We're all going to be learning about it together here. Now,
stop teasing us. Come
numbers
on.
that we're going to show you here that are numbers from the start of the campaign versus the end of the campaign. Let's get some of these slides up now and we'll talk our way through it here, where what seems to have happened over the campaign is that right now 52-47 would mean that, of course, you'd end up with a majority LNP government, but it's not going to be a particularly large one. People have told me that they have to basically be at 55-45 for them to actually really blast past that majority point. And if you have a look at that, but we can compare to the next slide, hopefully that I've got for you here, we'll show you that, that there has been a change. We'll maybe go without the slides because, forgive me, I've sent those in a very hurried fashion to our production team. But at the start of the campaign, it was 55-45. At the end of the campaign, it is 52-47. Okay? The preferred premier, I don't have a comparison number, but it is currently Stephen Miles, 45, to Crucifulli's 42. That's changed during the campaign. For Stephen Miles, going in, there were 48% of Queenslanders who were dissatisfied with his performance. Sorry, that higher number was 51. It is now 48. The number for David Crucifulli was 37, 37 dissatisfied to 49 dissatisfied. That has now become 46% to 43%, with more people dissatisfied than satisfied. And as for the overall primary vote, at the start of the campaign, Labor on 30%, the LNP at 42. At the end of the campaign, Labor on 33, the LNP on 42. Stephen, a lot of numbers, but it clearly shows that Labor did make ground during the campaign. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I think that Stephen has absolutely shocked, certainly you, Paul, by demonstrating that he's a good campaigner. I think he's won the campaign so far. I don't think he's winning it enough
to get
across the line. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think he's shameless, and I think he's spent. And look, he's played some pretty low cards, like the abortion one here. We've got the deputy leader of the LNP standing by to react to all of this.
I think the Liberals have played that one on themselves.
Yeah, okay. Bronwyn, give me the 30-second version of what you think of the polling here, which clearly shows LNP still in front, LNP still in an election-winning position, but they have come back during the campaign.
I think that the LNP should win, but I put this a second caveat for the night, that I do remember Mr Borbidge said that when he lost, he still got 54% of the vote. There is a conventional wisdom about Queensland that the Conservative side needs to have something like 55, 56 to be absolutely rock solid. But equally, there are the Katter Party and One Nation, and I think that one way or another there'll be a change of government.
My view is, and again, I look forward to this being played at some certain point in time, best case scenario for the LNP is going to be 15 seats to win. They need 12. I wouldn't be surprised if there is a chance of them falling below the 12 but still having more than Labor and them becoming the next government. Thank you, guys. Do appreciate it. Let's talk to the Deputy Leader of the LNP next. As the breaking news shows that the polls, they always get tighter, but there has been some substantial movement, including on the priority of issues. I'll tell you what has now finally become the number one issue of the campaign. More in a sec.
This program is brought to you by Harvey Norman, for everything you need in furniture, bedding, electrical and technology.
The contest for Queensland has begun. Premier Stephen Miles challenged by David Crisafulli. As Queensland decides, only one network will bring you the two people who know Queensland politics better than anyone. Anastasia Palaszczuk and Campbell Newman.
We're here to break it all down without the political spin.
But with some healthy debates for old time's sake.
Watch as Queensland decides, live Saturday on Sky News Australia.
Harvey Norman super deals on laptops. Save $120 on this Asus VivoBook Go 15, now $378. Save over $300 on this Lenovo Yoga with OLED screen. Save $500 on this powerful HP Envy X360. At Harvey Norman now.
At Spotlight Spring Savings Sale, save 50% off individual sheets, 50% off Cooley quilt cover sets, and 30 to 50% off cookware. So shake it, make it, and cook it for less. All backed by our bargain guarantee. Sale on now. At Spotlight, it's what you make it.
Tonight, the Wilsons are serving steak with a side of bragging about their home loan.
They call me the mortgage maestro.
Don't be bitter. Get a better deal and save over $5,000 on interest in year one with a Westpac home loan package.
Best things in life are free, 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 free. Best things in life are free.
Everyone has a reason. But if you haven't found one, 1 in 3 of us will need blood in our lifetime. So one day, your life might be the reason.
Life takes you to a lot of places, and mental health challenges like depression and anxiety can follow you to all of them. That's why you need support that's affordable and always with you.
What if you could do therapy here, and this way, and that way, all within your schedule and budget?
That's what BetterHelp is for. No referrals, no waiting rooms, just therapy, designed to work for you.
Join the millions of people who turn to BetterHelp for mental health support.
It's therapy, a better way. BetterHelp.com.
Fancy Feast. Culinary inspired. Cat adored. Every delicious detail, every delicate bite brings you and your cat closer together. Fancy Feast. Love is in the details.
Frustrated with your whites turning grey over time? Try new Vanish Gold Pro. At 20 degrees, it removes tough stains better than detergent alone. Plus, it keeps your whites crystal white even after 50 washes. Trust Vanish, forget stains.
The Good Guys 4-day sale is on now. Get $200 off this Linsar 60-inch TV. Over $300 off this chic combo washer dryer. This Asus Celeron laptop only $366. Plus this massive 9.5 litre Ninja air fryer only $199. Hurry, end Sunday, pay less every day at The Good Guys.
Right now at Carpet Call, you can order our plantation shutters from just $275 per square metre. That's right, just $275 per square metre. So, to transform the look of your home, you know who to call.
The experts in the trade.
Jared Blay is, of course, the Deputy Leader of the LNP. In a couple of days' time, he may well be the Deputy Premier of the great state of Queensland. He joins us now from beautiful Bundaberg. You heard the breaking news in and around that poll, so forgive me, we don't have as much time as I expected tonight to talk. But what is your feeling going into the night? Do you have an expectation of a clear majority, or, given the abortion lie and other issues, we might be talking about a much closer result than anyone was thinking?
Well, hi, Paul, and welcome from Bundaberg. Great to be in regional Queensland. Look, we always knew it was going to be tough, and we don't have the union movement. We knew the Labor Party was so desperate. They were going to have the fear, the scaremongering, and we've seen that in the campaigns. They have spent millions of dollars lying to Queenslanders. But the real reality is this, and I've just been on from far north Queensland the last 2 days, far north Queensland, North Queensland, Central Queensland, in Bundaberg now, heading south. And there's a real sense in the community for a fresh start. People do, I think, want to change the government. You imagine if we wake up Sunday morning and Stephen Miles is re-elected as the Premier, and you're going to have $2 billion on school lunches, Steve-O the Sparky, Steve-O the service owner, Dr. Giggles running GP clinics, and then Dr. Giggles, Stephen Miles being the tuck shop convener. Like, it's scary but believable, and it's always going to be a tough election. We've said that from the outset, and that's why we just need to encourage people, no matter where they are in Queensland, to get out, vote one LNP for change, for a fresh start.
All right, in terms of issues, number one issue according to this poll, 51% cost of living, 20% crime, 10% health and hospitals. Does that make the case for change? Or if the numbers are like that about cost of living, the bloke with the sort of T-shirt cannon of cash, is that going to throw a wrench into what we all thought was to be a referendum on the performance of the government?
Well, certainly in regional Queensland, at the polling booths I've been to in the recent few days and looking forward to Bundaberg tomorrow, certainly crime and cost of living are still the two biggest issues people are coming in and talking to our candidates about. Now, it doesn't surprise me, cost of living and crime they have been the two biggest issues during this election campaign. But the real question is, do people think they're going to get cost of living relief by Stephen Miles making sandwiches in tuck shops at every primary school in Queensland? It's over $2 billion, and ultimately, Queenslanders will pay, and they're going to pay by bigger Labor taxes. The only way the Labor Party, if they get re-elected, can pay for all these billions of dollars of promises of owning service stations, retail energy outlets, and, sangers, tuck shops in primary schools is bigger Labor taxes. And Labor Party aren't telling Queenslanders that's how they're going to fund these after the election if they get re-elected. So unfortunately, Queenslanders need to know that if they re-elect the Labor government, they're going to see bigger Labor taxes because of all these promises that Stephen Miles has made. And it's like Oprah Winfrey show. Everyone gets a car. You get a car, you get a car. Everybody knows there's no such thing as a free lunch under the Labor Party. And I just hope they see that and vote for change, vote for a fresh start on Saturday.
I'm confident. You've got to think about the entire 4 years, not the past 4 weeks, not the tricks, not the rest of it when it comes to hospitals, crime, all the rest of it. All the best for the weekend. I'll see you as part of things on Saturday night, and we'll talk again next week. Thank you, Jared.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you.
That's Jared in Bundy. I'm here in Brisbane, and I look forward to being part of the election night coverage on Saturday night. Stand by for the late debate.
Harvey Norman, your destination for the new Google Pixel 9 series. Get the Google Pixel 9 Pro 128GB for $0 up front when you connect to a new Optus $69 per month SIM-only plan for 24 months. Hurry, ends November 5 at Harvey Norman.
Since time began, we found ways to settle differences.
This town ain't big enough for the both of us. Looks pretty darn spacious to me.
But today, we don't shoot it out, we bet it out.
Great draw, great jockey.
Nah, man, this one shoots out of the gate.
Bet it out with Neds. Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
How good is that first sip of a silky smooth oat milk latte? How good is a dairy-free smoothie that's high in calcium? How good is creamy without the cream? How good? So good.
Everyone has a reason. But if you haven't found one, 1 in 3 of us will need blood in our lifetime. So one day, your life might be the reason.
Fancy Feast, culinary inspired, cat adored. Every delicious detail, every delicate bite brings you and your cat closer together. Fancy Feast, love is in the details.
At Spotlight Spring Saving Sale, VIP save 20 to 40% off all yarn. VIP save 20 to 30% off costumes, face paint and accessories. VIP save 30 to 50% off Spooky Hollow Halloween range, backed by a bargain guarantee. Sale on now. At Spotlight, it's what you make it.
Life takes you to a lot of places, and mental health challenges like depression and anxiety can follow you to all of them. That's why you need support that's affordable and always with you.
What if you could do therapy here, and this way, and that way, all within your schedule and budget?
That's what BetterHelp is for. No referrals, no waiting rooms, just therapy, designed to work for you.
Join the millions of people who turn to BetterHelp for mental health support.
It's therapy, a better way. BetterHelp.com.
At Viking, we've thought of everything so you don't have to. Unpack once and we'll take care of the rest.
Viking's Fly Crew sale is on now. For a limited time, enjoy free return flights for your companion with all ocean voyage bookings. Visit Viking.com or see your Viking agent.
Frustrated with your whites turning grey over time? Try new Vanish Gold Pro. At 20 degrees, it removes tough stains better than detergent alone. Plus, it keeps your whites crystal white even after 50 washes. Trust Vanish, forget stains.
Best things in life are free. Best things in life are free.
Australia with the thrill of a $40 million jackpot every 3 minutes. Keno Go. Download the app now.
Harvey Norman's super deals on laptops. Save $120 on this Asus VivoBook Go 15, now $378. Save over $300 on this Lenovo Yoga with OLED screen. Save $500 on this powerful HP Envy X360. At Harvey Norman now.
It's easy to pick up where you left off with Foxtel.
Up in.
Just select continue watching and you're right back in the action. It's like magic, really.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Alakazam!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Late Debate.
Happy Thursday and thanks for your company. I'm Liz Storer and here with me this evening is Caleb Bond and Joe Hildebrand. Coming up tonight, an epic showdown between two American neighbours. It's a case of rabid. Trump derangement syndrome versus MAGA. Who will win? And coming up in the papers, Dan Andrews, now chairman of a board for youth mental health, pocketing $75,000 for the privilege. Will he donate it to charity? You'll find out later. And lastly, a Queensland candidate, what will you make of this one, is campaigning on bringing back the cane to schools. Thoughts, feelings? I remember that thing. We had the paddle. But first tonight, our UN envoy, James Larson, has earlier this week asked China to just abide by the recommendations in a UN report regarding the atrocities China is committing toward well over a million Uyghurs in the Xinjiang province. We know that they are in re-education camps and we know the conditions are far less than humane. This has been going on for years. It's not the first time and we're not the first country that the UN has called upon China to release these people, or at the very least, treat them humanely, or let independent viewers into the country so that they can at least be made aware of the conditions there on the ground. Of course, China has for many years forbidden this and they're not changing their tune. Check out their response today. Imagine our shock, Australia. According to China, we're the ones who are full of human rights abuses here in Australia. Lin Yang, respondent from the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs, says Australia, long plagued by systemic racism and hate crimes, have severely violated the rights of refugees and immigrants and left Indigenous people with vulnerable living conditions. Australian soldiers have committed abhorrent crimes in Afghanistan and other countries during their military operations overseas. These Western countries turn a blind eye to their own severe human rights issues at home, but in the meantime point their fingers at other countries. This says a lot about their hypocrisy on human rights. Can you believe it? Doesn't this remind you of the famous Marxist comment saying you must accuse your enemy of doing what you're doing while you're doing it, just to confuse people? Of course, this was said on state media in China, so no one would doubt what this guy's saying. But take a look at Albanese today. He wasn't having a bar of it.
We, of course, will always stand up for Australia's interests. And when it comes to China, we've said we'll cooperate where we can, we'll disagree where we must, and we'll engage in our national interest. And we've raised issues of human rights with China. We've done that in a consistent and clear way.
Very diplomatic. Nicely said, Mr. Albanese. Yes, your favourite guy. Yes. There he is.
Standing up to
China.
We
must be diplomatic at all times.
Oh, come on. Now you're being racist and ableist.
He's the one who accused an opposition minister of having Tourette's.
I love it when China does this. They pull the race card out all the time. Who says they're not learning stuff? They're just looking at all the little wokesters, all the little identity politics. They call them ID polls for the kids. All the little identity politics activists in the US and on campuses here. They go, oh, you can just call anyone a racist, can you? Oh, okay. I don't like you. You're a racist. And it's a learning game, and they're doing it, and it's just absolutely hilarious. Soon they'll be invading us for being so racist.
Well, that's it.
They don't need to. They've already got so much soft power.
They'll put us into re-education camps and force us to build cheap electronic devices and sell them on Temu until we get educated about just how racist we are.
Exactly. All in the name of anti-racism. I mean, seriously. And the sad thing is that there are probably people out there who do believe this. But we
certainly anyone in China would.
Yeah, and we kind of have